Welcome. These will be my thoughts on Arrow Season 2, Episode 23, Unthinkable. The episode is rated TV-14, so this video there will be spoilers for the episode and all the ones leading up to it. Another episode I absolutely loved. Well, my friend who requested I cover Arrowverse Arts Cafe did say, about the episode before this episode, and also episode 1 of Flash, that they would be epic and mind-blowing, and so far, absolutely. I'm gonna briefly cover, so there's two deleted scenes on the Blu-ray. It's Oliver imagining, that he had like a knife and managed to, I'm not gonna go beat for beat, but he manages to keep, in this imagined thing. It cuts from that to when Dig goes up to him as at the start of the episode, I think it is, saying, "Hey, are you all right?" But yeah, he imagines, oh, if I had a knife, I would have. He kills Slade, which I'm really glad that it's on the Blu-ray. I think it was probably just cut for time because it does really, a good chunk of the episode, like a major thing, is will Oliver kill Slade or not? That's a conflict, and this deleted scene really sets it up wonderfully. So it's too bad, but I do see how, this is another episode that also doesn't have the 5 years of hell on the island. It has it previously on, but then it goes into the episode. And the other deleted scene is that when Dig is freeing the, recruiting the Suicide Squad, he's about to let out. Should I say, is it? I forget if I've already mentioned in an earlier episode. I mean, you probably know who she is once I've said Suicide Squad, and she has been referenced. She was referenced in an actual episode, not only in this Blu-ray deleted scene. So now you probably know who. And she. Deadshot says not to free her, and says something like, not her, trust me, to Dig. And so he doesn't. And I do appreciate, she would definitely not be sufficiently dependable for this. This is after he already told Deadshot, no dropping bodies. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen with her. And she refers to Dig as chocolate pudding, which does fit her vocabulary. And yeah, the voice continues to be spot on, and we only see her from the back, like we see the back of her head, so it's difficult to judge that. But I guess I can say, like, I thought they got the size right. She doesn't look like incredibly tall, so yeah, I think, I guess I could say she also looks like, not like physically huge, but then I guess pretty much all the women on the show so far, I guess maybe not, Dinah, like the mother. Wait, yes, isn't her name Dinah? Because Dinah is also, that's the thing, it's also the middle name of Laurel. But other than her, I don't think we really had any women who look. I do hope later in the Arrowverse we'll get a little bit more body diversity, but I do appreciate the ethnic and gender diversity. Now, I think that does cover both of them, but yeah, so I really appreciated the way that the previously on, had a bunch of stuff of the relationship between Oliver and Slade, right down to the first time they met, which he also references later in the episode, telling, he says, and it works because he's kind of also saying it to Felicity. But let's see. Then we have the, yes. So yeah, Oliver, turns, and Roy yeah, it's this thing of like, are they sure that it worked on Roy? And I think it's Felicity who points out, well, there was still Tibetan snake venom in his blood, so this doesn't mean that it didn't work. And it's right. I guess I will just briefly say I really thought they did a fantastic job of just keeping the pace incredibly intense here. So many things happen, so much action, and it's basically the biggest and some of best that we've gotten on the show so far. Several of the best bits of action of the show so far are in this episode. Yeah, I think that does cover it. Is this when we have the... I think it is actually already at this point that the proximity alarm goes off, and yeah, a bunch of them attack. And very clever that they, yeah, we see Roy, who does not know that he's been given the cure, and yeah, it has indeed taken effect, and away his powers went. And I like his look of surprise, because like, yeah. And yeah, um, they managed to, yeah, they use the zipline arrow to get out of there. And then helicopter blows up the thing, and we see that it's Lila. Very nicely done, because like, yeah, you know up until near the end of this episode, Waller trusted Lila. She accepted that somehow Dig returned and found the bomb. And now I'm just thinking, Keanu Reeves yelling, "There's a bomb in your neck!" But yeah, the let's see, yeah, and she points out she's there to help, because Waller trusts her. And I think the next thing might have been the let's see, maybe Thea. So yeah, she did indeed shoot, but he's wearing Kevlar. And yeah, he starts saying that he's so proud of her for shooting him. And yeah, she's not a fan. And let's see, we have the... yeah, he says that Tommy almost shot Malcolm, and but Thea is stronger. She's like iron. And it's this thing of like, again, when that scene first played out, I was thinking, well, she's probably gonna stay away from him. But there at the end, they're in the same, she gets into his car, she's going to follow his path, which is pretty scary. And yeah, I believe it, based on, because there's just enough ambiguity in her reaction that, I mean, at the time, she's primarily extremely put off. But the during the conversation overall, but yeah, the thing about her being iron. And I think that does, but yeah, you see the... yeah, so yeah, she starts walking off, and you see the determination on his face, like his new undertaking, getting a Father of the Year award. He may have to settle for one from FIFA. Now, I think that brings us... is that maybe where we get the first of the bits with Laurel and the... let's see. There's a bit at the police station where the yeah, I think maybe that was later. Oh, I think it's a flashback that happens around this point in the episode. So yeah, the yeah, Slade is, we're seeing him, he's the let's see. Oh wait, is that... I'm actually not entirely sure. No, yeah, because he did already capture them, so he's standing there. Yeah, I think this is when he like is injecting Miracle into others to see. So, this is of course what Sebastian is later seen doing, or later, chronologically speaking, I mean, in an earlier episode in the present day scenes. And I think that does, yeah, so very nicely done there, this thing of, it's, there's a kind of full circle effect to this. The This is one of the, it was something that happened very early in this season, and yeah, like this whole time, Slade's been trying to make, yeah, since the events of this flashback, he's been trying to make an army with Miracle. I think that brings us, let's see. Right, I think I remember now. It's the, yeah, so there's the, yeah, scene at the police station, and, the, I forget if that's maybe when, yeah, I think that is when he, he tells them to go out and, you know, save people, and this, where Sarah, Laurel is going to go find, and, Quentin, every time you, maybe especially in a season finale of this show so far, tell Laurel to stay put, it ends up not quite going like that. And I don't know, maybe consider like reverse psychology or something. But but yeah, and Sarah is there and says, Laurel can't be involved in this. And yeah, genuinely really, really clever that's something Sarah did. There was that thing about, let's see, she said goodbye, and now she's back in the city. She wasn't necessarily going to permanently leave, but she wasn't sure if, but yeah, she went to and got help. And yeah, again with Nissa, based on the other episode, she was, I think it was the only one, yeah, I buy it that she would be willing to, in exchange for Sarah coming back. And it is also, they do the what's the word, the the League don't benefit from what Slade is doing, and you don't have to twist their arm to get them killing people. That's kind of their whole thing. And I think that brings us to the right now. So appreciated the fact that, so yeah, in my video on the episode, I think it was the one before this one. Wait, is that okay? That's okay. Before this one, the they end up, they take refuge in the clock tower. I think that's what it is, the tower. And I noted in my video, yeah, Slade wouldn't know about that the same way he would know about, yeah, Verdant is one of Queen's, yeah. But the tower, yeah, it was just a matter of time, and he has ways of finding, yeah. I think that does bring us to, yeah, and I really thought between the episode before this one and this one, I buy that the entire army that Slade made, that they were all stopped by the end of it. Between the blowing up of the tower, the miracle in the tunnel, yeah. And I think that is when they meet in the yeah, so they go to the or is this when, okay, I'll do another flashback just so I don't, so yeah, Oliver notes the the let's see. Yeah, Oliver tries to talk Slade down, and everything he says gets twisted by this image of Slade that the shadow that Slade has conjured up. It's not like the real Shadow. And I know I've already praised her performance, but she really does hit it out the park. That's something I'm going to miss, because I'm not sure we're going to see her again. I guess maybe next time. Please don't tell me. But I would not mind seeing Slade more. The fact that he is still alive and we even know exactly where he is, like, it's not impossible that they could bring him back later. If not on the show, somewhere else in the Arrowverse. But yeah, it's possible that although, I mean, he started seeing her because of Miracle, so it's possible he wouldn't be seeing her anymore. But yeah, she really, really nails it. And let's see. Yeah, so in the Foundry, yeah, Sarah, Nyssa, and what was it, 7? Or was Felicity counting Nyssa as one of the 7? But yeah, a bunch of assassins. And I like that, I am Nyssa, daughter of Ra's al Ghul. I'm Felicity Smoke, class of 09. And let's see, I think that brings us... let's see, there's definitely something else that I want to say there. Yeah, that really helped bring this discussion of whether or not to kill to the forefront. This was already a discussion that Oliver was having with Sarah, and now she brought even more, killers, and I think it is Nyssa who straight up says, we are in this mess because you couldn't kill. And later Felicity notes, no, it's because you chose to kill in the flashback, And let's see. Yeah, I quite liked, we see several of them just readying, getting Miracle Cure into the those arrows that inject. And I think that pretty much... Was there more in that scene? Let's see. So yeah, I think that's also when Nyssa says, it's in it's the tunnel that is being used, and at some point around here also we cut to Argus, and they talk about, so they have people in the tunnel, and turns out to not go so well. Slade figured out about it, and yeah, again, very, very clever. And yeah, Lila and Dig go back to Argus to buy some time. And I think this might be around when Laurel is... Am I allowed to call it kidnapped? I mean, I'm not talking about Maduro, Nicolas Maduro, who definitely wasn't kidnapped, unless you ask Trump, who says it's a good word, or not a bad word at least, which I'm just saying. I wouldn't rule out that sometime in the 1980s, a Saturday morning cartoon villain said those exact words, and parents contacted the network and said, "What is this brain rot you're feeding my children?" Now, I suppose I will just briefly note, so at the risk of being a downer, so it's not a fun video, but it is an important one. Dead Domain made a video. I'm afraid my wrists are too sore to check for sure right now, but I believe part of the title is "No One is Safe." And I would not want you to be upset by it, so I'm going to tell you it is indeed about, I wasn't exactly surprised when Jordan decided to cover this. How do I... Okay, so you may have heard that Grok has been being used recently for something very disturbing, including sexual content that went much further than pretty much any of us should feel at all comfortable with. And yeah, it's genuinely an upsetting video, but that is like the only way to properly cover it. And as has been my experience so far, I have not watched everything that Domain has uploaded, but when they, yeah, they are very respectful and not sensationalist when dealing with this topic that could so easily be handled in that kind of way. I think that brings us to the... Was there anything else before the tunnel? Maybe this does get us... Oh, right. And yeah, Laurel is kidnapped. Yeah. And we find later that Quentin... I can't believe... So Sarah leaves to go back with Nissa. And now Quentin is gone, and I am very worried about what's going to happen to Laurel, because by the end of this season, she has not fully, dealt with. She is, yeah. When she feels it will help, she is blackmailing people and, not really taking, yeah, she's not taking it slow. She's not taking it one day at a time. She's rushing to get back to her old life. And I'm not an addict, but that is one of the things that is well documented about recovering addicts. That's, yeah, major thing. And I think that does bring us to... Right, and the let's see, the DA died. I guess I'm not sure Laurel is going to straight up be the DA, but she might be working directly beneath the new DA, and maybe they might do something where she becomes the DA if the other DA... Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out. And but yeah, I think that does cover the I feel like there's one more thing. Maybe this was around the time when the yeah, so yeah, Dig and Lila managed to get yeah. Another thing I have a soft spot for, scenes where someone, respectfully tells, I'm afraid you don't have clearance to be here, and then they get like knocked out, and just, yeah. But I think that yeah, and Deadshot joking, what is this, early parole? And he does get the wrist gun, and let's see, the yeah, and they I think that's when we go to the tunnel. So let's see. Oh wait, right. Holy crap. There's obviously, they go to the building before the tunnel. Yeah, they go to the Queen offices. I'm really gonna miss seeing Summer Glau on this. I mean, it looked like she died, and they knew about Miracle in her veins, so they would probably do something that they would be confident would kill her. But it was really, really awesome having her on the show. So even if this is the last we see. Now but yeah, really really cool. I like the thing about you must really have faith in your own abilities to come alone. I didn't. And it's very different to see other archers and other people coming in through windows and such. And let's see. Yeah, and in season 1, it also happened. It happened with Moira's, and I think wasn't she in the Queen offices at the time? I think she might have been. Anyway, yeah, just phenomenal action during that entire bit, and I thought they did a good job making it clear there's no way that Oliver, can cure Slade. That's simply not going to happen. And I think that might bring us to the so there's a flashback where, Anatoly manages to fire the rigged torpedo, and and that was also very clever because, like, there's the thing about, if we're not back in an hour, and like, he kept them there for a while. So I think that does cover... Oh, right, actually, I think that, that's the one where Sarah disappears under the water, so yeah. Deja vu. Are they gonna do this every season? And I, Slade also saying, how many times are you gonna watch Sarah die? But but yeah, I completely believe that after this, Oliver would simply think this time she really is dead, but instead she was, she ended up with the assassins. I stopped short of saying guild. The League of Assassins is obviously who I mean. Do you think they had to negotiate who gets their first pick of name? Because, like, I could see either of them using the other's name. But then, technically, I guess So Assassin's Creed, those games, I think it was like 2006 or 7 for the first one. 7, I think, if I had to. And the comics, I'm pretty sure, had the League of Assassins further back than that. So, yeah, it's possible there's some Assassin's Creed developers like, if only we got to ours sooner. Anyway, yes, so they, the tunnel, there's the thing about, well, they're not responding. Any visual, can't get it. And, it turns out Amanda Waller is a very visual person. And, that was some of my favorite action of the episode, was in the tunnel itself. Like, holy crap. And, just so freaking cool. All of these archers, all firing arrows. Nissa got several of the coolest shots, in both meanings of that word, that applied to this scene, I mean. And, it was cool seeing Roy fire an arrow. I forget if he fired more than one, but yeah, by now he's learned, remember everything you've learned. And he did. And he got the mask, and I appreciate that Oliver is still referring to Sebastian as friend. And so, in Oliver's eyes, Sebastian did redeem himself. Let's see, he didn't want him to be mayor anymore, but he, let's see. I guess that does cover the tunnel. I think that's about the time when the when Oliver talks to so Amanda, we have the Dig and Lila and Deadshot, and they get in there, and guns are drawn, and yeah, I 100%, I forget if it happened in any of the comics I read, but I definitely believe, because Amanda Waller, she's got plans inside plans, backups for backups, and yeah, you know, if it comes right down to it, yeah, she will frickin' dual wield. I wasn't entirely sure if she went the full Nocturne and aimed, the two guns at two different targets or not. I missed that game. Anyway, but yeah, and the thing about, this is treason. So it's treason then. How are you going to explain this to your daughter? Or is it son? Or did you want to be surprised? Congratulations, Mr. Diggle. You're going to be a father. She kept that tidbit for the moment of maximum impact emotionally, trying to talk them out of, yeah. And let's see, because she really just needs them to doubt their resolve just a little bit, and she'll have the upper hand again. She might not shoot to kill, but if she wounds them well enough, she can take back control. But yeah, Oliver tells her, send the drone back in the other direction. We have it under control. The army has been dealt with. And that brings, right, yeah, and Oliver, taking Felicity to the mansion, and yeah, very nicely done. I did not realize that Oliver had a plan beyond just getting Felicity out of the way, or out of, seemingly harm's way, but yeah, the thing about the, yeah, we see later the flashback, he did notice the cameras from the, yeah, very, very clever. So, like, Slade, it was that thing about, outfoxing and, outthinking each other. I can't outthink him. Then, what was it? Then let him outthink you, and yeah, because we already know his judgment is impaired. He didn't think about, maybe the yeah, and I will say I bought it too. I believe the ship is referred to as Olicity, and yeah, I don't hate the idea of the two of them ending up together. They both deserve happiness, and there's been enough moments where it's like, well, I wouldn't rule out this leading to them getting together across these two seasons, but but yeah, and he says, Slade took the wrong woman, it's you I love, do you understand? And yeah, we don't see his hands, don't watch the mouth, kid, watch the hands. And Slade was also, because like, yeah, Oliver knew where the camera was. He knew the angle, so he knew what it would and wouldn't show. Yeah, really, really clever to have the, yeah. Because, like, yeah, he said, the Slade wants to kill the woman I love. And, then handing her that, yeah, she understands. And I think that brings us to, yeah, so yeah, Slade contacts him and, says, I thought you liked stronger women, but now that I've met her, I see the appeal. Felicity. Yeah, holy crap. And yeah, so Oliver goes to meet him, and they do that really, really cool thing that I also really love when media does, where the villain is like taunting the hero even before they're face to face. And I really like that he's still calling him kid, just to really underline that he thinks Slade thinks himself superior to Oliver. And oh right, yeah, there's definitely some stuff with right. So yeah, let's see. Thea talks to Roy calls Thea, and Malcolm. See, that was at least one thing. For years now, Thea has not had to deal with a father who was like, are you really going out with him? But are you really going to take him home tonight? Drop a comment down below if you remember that show too. I wonder sometimes if I'm literally the only person on the planet who still remembers. But yes, I think and he notes, he's no different. Don't believe his lies, which I feel like goes for everyone, but yeah. And yeah, so they do meet up, and he explains, the drug is gone, the drug has gone away, and I did really appreciate that they do hug, and let's see, I think right, and didn't they also kiss, or am I thinking about something else? Anyway, and he says, we have to get far away from here, pack, and I'll come back, and she finds bow and arrow, which I'm not sure if she thinks he is the arrow, but like he said, he doesn't have anything to do with the arrow, and then she finds multiple arrows. Maybe that's what he meant. He's like, I don't limit myself to one arrow. And he's not mono-arrowless. That was terrible even for me. Anyway, yes, so I think that brings us to, so yeah, we get the flashback that confirms, that shows that Oliver planned with how to plan when it comes to Felicity, and this thing of like, the most dangerous person is right in front of you, or something like that, and genuinely clever, because like she is getting a hang, the hang of a thing for this spy stuff, spy craft, but not amazing at it yet, but some, and yeah, she jabs him with it, and the fight is now significantly more even. And I loved the intercutting of the flashback fight on the boat, and then the present day fight. That was a really inspired decision. Because again, this is what it comes down to. Is Oliver going to kill Slade? Now, in the flashback, he thought maybe an arrow to the eye would work despite Miracle. He knows that wouldn't work again, but he removed Miracle. So, that's, and it was such an amazing fight. Both timelines versions, and I 100% understand why he thought that Slade would not be able to come back from. So, yeah, he was like underwater, inside the ship, held down by a bunch of heavy metal 2000 copies, and the that was a fun South Park episode. But I think that does. Let's see. Yeah, and Slade trying to goad him into killing, and saying, I made you a killer, and that's all you are. And that is the thing. Like, one of the questions of this season is, can you come back from that? And, obviously he's especially referring to the fact that, he blames Oliver for Shadow dying. Sorry, I don't know if the camera picked that up, but there was a loud noise, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't anything. I don't know, could it be late fireworks maybe or something? I'm not hearing anything else. I figure it's probably, yeah. Anyway, I think that does cover the yeah, and he manages to use those arrows that tie people up to get him the what's it called? Uh, yeah, to keep him from fighting more, because he can only break out of those with Miracle in his veins. And I think that does cover that. Yeah, that brings us just to the wrap up. So yeah, Roy finds the note and sees the arrows and puts two and two together. And let's see, Thea is leaving, and she's not even sure where she's going, but she's going with Malcolm. And I will say, I really appreciate that he's still around and that it's this very different thing that's going on with him now, because technically he succeeded at the undertaking, and yeah, like it wouldn't be super interesting if they could have rewritten the season to have him again be the final villain, but I think he's more interesting in this other way, and yeah, like he can, he can be a father to Thea, and we already know, that's, yeah, he can be a really bad influence. So, and yeah, she says that Thea Queen was trusting, and I don't trust you. Thea Queen was weak. And, that is the thing. Like, that is what she learned from being lied to by, once Oliver betrayed her trust, she genuinely, like, she might not really trust anyone anymore. Like, maybe Malcolm, but maybe not even that. Maybe it is just, to have something. And yeah, it's a really fascinating place to have the character. I don't know if they're gonna, I mean, it's, yeah, I there's various different places they can go with her from here. And we also have, so yeah, Sarah saying she's gonna go back. And I quite appreciated Nisa saying, I understand how powerful a father's love can be. I think she said something like she would sooner die than let harm come to Sarah. And Quentin is like, I sure hope so. I would say don't ever change, but I'm not sure he's still alive after this episode. And yeah, I believe they call what he has internal bleeding, which I appreciate is technically where the blood is supposed to be. It can still be a really, yeah. I haven't actually watched that show, just seen GIFs. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be referencing it, but the joke made me chuckle when I saw it. And anyway, yeah, let's see, yeah, and Sarah giving Laurel the jacket, and Quentin saying don't get any ideas, and yeah, like I could see her ending up taking up that mantle, especially now that, like, at this point it's her and her mother is not even living in the same city, and I did really like the thing about, one thing I've learned this year: you will always find your way home. That is a very different, right after she saw Sarah again, she was like, you always screw everything up. And that does pretty much cover, let's see. So there's basically just the, yeah, I quite appreciated that it genuinely was a choice. Like, I could practically see, the bar, or I guess this one wouldn't have one, but, yeah, he's standing there and the player is trying to decide what exactly, if Oliver should put an arrow in, yeah, arrow or the cure for the cure. And yeah, been playing a lot of Telltale Walking Dead lately. But I think that does bring us to the but yeah, and in the present day, he wakes up and yeah, he's in a cell, and how is he gonna get out of there? He doesn't have the strength, he doesn't have means of communication with the outside, and yeah, I think that might, yeah, I felt really bad for, yeah, Felicity, and she's like, you have me fooled, you played your part well. I know you don't really love me, and like, she gives him every chance to say, I meant what I said, and of course, instead he said, well, we both played our part well. I feel really bad for her, but I mean, there's a lot of like bittersweet kind of stuff with her character, and yeah, and I like the thing about the uh, let's see, and technically it doesn't for sure mean that he doesn't mean it, because he does sometimes lie to people to protect them, so it's possible that that's what he's doing there. But yeah, I think, oh right, for those who haven't already, I have mentioned it in other of these videos recently, but I'm doing the very first episode of Flash very soon. I am not continuing on Flash before I do the other, I'm going to do a season of Walking Dead, which is going to be Fear the Walking Dead Season 1. And then I'm going to do a season of a Marvel show. Feels weird to call it MCU adjacent. I believe the next one is MODOK. And I'm pretty sure that has almost nothing to do with the MCU. It's Marvel, but not MCU. Anyway, and then I'll do the rest of season 1 of The Flash. But or is it just Flash? Maybe no, I forget. And let's see. I think that pretty much gets us to, yeah, Felicity notes, I have one more question. You wouldn't be you if you didn't. And yeah, think about where did you learn how to fly a plane? And also, the confirmation, yes, this is indeed the same island. She notes, I didn't get much of a chance last time to appreciate this. Actually, it's very beautiful. I mean, I can hardly wait to get off Minefield Island. And we see that after the boat sank, he woke up with Amanda Waller. Not like that, but, and that is very cool. Like, I definitely am excited to see how that's gonna, yeah. And it's one of those things, like, after a while, you're gonna run out of interesting stuff to do with him still on that one island. And yeah, this is a very interesting other, so let's see, is it 3 more years of flashback before he returned to yeah. And I mean, technically, he does end up back on the island, because we did see him there at the end of, at the start, at the end of his time on the island, at the start of the first episode. But yeah, having him off the island. I mean, okay, so yeah, he's been saying after 5 years on a hellish island. Yeah, but sometimes he withholds information, and I think, but yeah, I am very very excited to see what they're gonna do with that, and I guess that might mean more Amanda Waller. I was not sure how much we were gonna get. Like the first time she popped up on this show, I thought it might be like, okay, they're setting up for later. But yeah, been very happy with how much we've gotten of her. And I think that does cover, yeah, just phenomenal season. Like this show just gets better and better. And I'm really looking forward to Flash. I've already noted how much I like the casting of the lead there, and yeah, I feel like that does cover everything. Yeah, I really felt like they delivered on all the things promised. Yeah, I like the thing about the he's gonna have to what is he gonna do now, because the money's gone. He doesn't have the company anymore. I mean, yeah, Isabel is dead, and she was the one who like owned it, but they're gonna appoint, and there's gonna be another CEO of the company she ran that's now going to be running that company. And yeah, I have no idea exactly what they're gonna do, and I thought they did a really great job of having that happen gradually. Like it wasn't like one episode to the next. There were several episodes over the course of which Isabel picked apart his life, and I really appreciate that actually part of it was the fact that Thea no longer trusts him. He did choose to lie. He meant well, but yeah, he's been lying to her since the moment he got back from the island. So by the end of this episode, that's like 2 years or something. That's yeah. And so yeah, that's why she didn't sign. And the yeah, I'm genuinely not entirely sure what they're going to do. He has a network, but not wealth or a company, and you know, not the mansion. So I think that does cover the just gonna real quick mentally fast forward through the episode. Yeah, so Oliver did indeed, as I theorized, he did bring up, "You're seeing Shadow, aren't you?" I didn't love that, so I think it really worked when he said, "I remember her as kind." The fact that he said, "I remember her as young and beautiful," which, like, I mean, whether or not Slade sees her as still young and beautiful doesn't really have anything to do with that. That felt a little bit like, women, that's their worth when they're young and beautiful, and it's just, no, the point is, but at least he did also say kind. I felt like that was the thing that mattered. Slade is betraying her memory by trying to take revenge in her name. And that was also great. The season in part deals with revenge, and by the end, yeah, he's standing there right outside the cell saying, "You're gonna stay here." They do say the best revenge is living well. And let's see. And it is definitely a, if we want to talk about, like, well, which is the worse fate for Slade? I mean, now he's like, I mean, he might still be obsessed with trying to get revenge, but what is he going to be able to do from the cell? So it's probably worse for him than, he technically would have won if Oliver had killed him or stood by while someone else killed him. It would prove Slade's point that he is just a killer. There's definitely something else that I really wanted to make sure to say. Let's see. The Yeah, I think it was everything about the episode. So I did just briefly want to note that my heart really goes out to the children who no longer have a mother, because I guess I'm supposed to be using passive voice, even though I hate it. Ice interacted with a woman, and she ended up dead. Don't want to get sued. And yeah, I mean, I think it's very noteworthy. I'm not the first person to point out, where are the White Lives Matter crowd now? Was that really just them saying that Black Lives don't matter? Was it really just in opposition to Black Lives Matter? Because it kind of seems like it, because this was a white person who was dead after an interaction with law enforcement. Seems like this would be the exact time that they would, yeah. Somehow I don't think that MAGA is going to make as big a deal of celebrating her as a human being as they did Charlie Kirk when he died. And I think it is also noteworthy that we're seeing a lot of people who would usually say they're pro-life and they're all about like strong families and such, not really saying anything now that, once again, she was a mother, you know? But instead, what we're seeing from at least some of MAGA is saying that she was a lesbian domestic terrorist who attempted to run over the ICE agent, which, like, how does that justify the particular course of action he took? Because, like, there is video, we've seen it. Those of us who wish to have seen, like, it really didn't look like he was in any kind of danger there. It looked like he was just upset that someone, it might be part of it that someone was a woman, was not doing exactly what he wanted. And this is not the first time that ICE agents have pointed their guns at people that they had no business, just people filming what they were doing, which is legal in America and various other countries. You are legally allowed to film law enforcement when they are on the job. And it was kind of just a matter of time before one of these ICE agents did go ahead and shoot the person. So yeah, I hate that it took the death of, a white U.S. citizen, considering that horrible things, including death, have happened to immigrants, some of them legal. But I do hope that this is going to be something that really yeah, a tipping point that means that ICE is, going to be anyone who works for ICE and who has done something that is against the law and or unethical are held accountable. And yeah, appreciate the various the voices and support of that. And yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. If I worked for an organization that did what they did here, I would want accountability. I think we should pay close attention to who continues to fight against accountability, and think about if you are someone who, at least until now, has been on the side of ICE, just think about if this really, if not holding that person at the very least accountable for what they did there, is that making America safer? Or is it just more power for people who are showing with their actions that when they have that power, people end up hurt, sometimes dead? No trial for her. She wasn't executed after being found guilty. I just want people to think about that. I'm not calling for violence against ICE or any, violence should always be the absolute last resort. I wish it had been for that particular ICE agent and others. But if there's enough people who stand up against it, let their voice be heard, fight back politically, non-violently, I think that's how we reach the other side of this, how we get to a place where law enforcement in America is less. I think it's a very long road before we get to zero, but less about just protecting the powerful and not protecting the rest of America. Sorry for the downer ending.